This will be our band.
Right.
Okay, I'll go ahead and stand. Martin County Schools Staff Spotlight. This certificate is awarded to Mr. Bruce Harkins. Where'd you go, Bruce?
Oh, I'm just sitting down.
Yeah. This is for exemplifying the value of a Martin County education, so I'll go ahead and hand Bruce his certificate, and we'll call the rest of them up, and then we'll get it going. Okay, and you can say at the end of it.
Absolutely, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Jonathan Allen.
Now I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to stand back here.
Because I know they'll all be lined up here, quite a few of them. Erica Ball.
Might get hit.
Mitchell Blackburn. Trevor Blackburn. Carly Branscombe. Edward Castle. Janae Chapman. Audrey Klein. Marcy Klein. Kyle Creamer. Cody Grunge. Joshua Crum. Alyssa Dyer. Delilah Fish. Heather Fletcher. Jamie Liddell. Virginia Hatfield. Haley Gerald. Rose Jude. Nathan McCoy. Callista Spence. Evan Prince. No Evan. I'll slide this back here. I know we're running out of room here. We'll make it through. Mary Spence. Elizabeth Staten. Tristan Stevens. Madison Whitt. Jonathan Pope. And Hannah Bowen. Okay, and we'd like to congratulate everyone up here, and Mr. Harkins, if if you want to say a word or say anything about it.
Absolutely, let me get it for you. Mr. McCoy, I don't want to make you cry. No. I don't have a whole lot to say except for that I'm extremely proud of everything that these fine young people have done for our school, for our band program. It's going places. I have never been, I've only talked about 5 years, and I have never been so satisfied of a group of young people that when you give them an expectation, they don't tend to complain a whole lot. They just work really hard. Today they had a really great privilege. We had musician Jonathan Payne from the United States Navy Band. He was in today as a guest artist for us. And he whooped up. We had some laughs, and you know, really pushed them to be better musicians. They really received that instruction well. I'm just extremely humbled to be their teacher. I'm extremely proud of them. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge 5 of these young ladies. We've got Haley, Virginia, and we've got Marcy, and where is Liz? Liz over here. Good. And then who am I missing? And Alyssa. Just to kind of give an individual spotlight. Those 5 young ladies. We went to Moorhead a couple weeks ago, dodging all the blizzard and the snow. I know Dr. Lenny's like, "No, we may not be able to get a bus because you know the blizzard's coming and the blizzard might blow the bus off the road. So we're not doing that, and that's okay. We played it safe, and we got the kids there." Moorhead State Band Clinic is a really big event. They take only a select number of students from across the tri-state, northern Ohio, I think it's as far as it goes. Not only did all 5, actually we had 13 auditions, the 5 of them made it in. We had Liz Staten, actually the first student, I think, in Sheldon Clark history that made the top band, which for us is just when stuff like that happens, I'm not a very big place guy. I don't mind about first place trophy or any of that. But when you get, I don't know how to say this, when I get to go out and take my band kids someplace and I try to defeat that silly Eastern Kentucky stigmatism of like, oh, that's that part of the state, oh, woe is me. I get a little sick of that. I'm not from here. And I'm telling you, I have people, I love telling the kids this, when I first took the job, they're like, "You're going to where? Martin County? What is that?" And people are so we tend to be negative as people, and I try to give positivity as much as I can. But when you have a group of kids that says, "Well, guess what? We're good too, and we're willing to work." Honestly, you know, I don't care. I really hope that they continue musicianship outside of high school. But if they don't, if they can just take away the theme of just forgetting negativity and just keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be fine. You're going to excel. You're not going to be fine. You're going to excel. You'll be great. I won't take any more of your time. I'm proud of all of you. Now, I can learn a thing or two from Cody Crum when it comes to dressing, because this whole tie thing, you exemplify the very best. Thank you very much, guys.
Mr. Harkins.
What can I do for you?
Can I get a shot at the hallway, all these kids together?
We can't do that. There's a legal thing. I'm kidding. It'll cost you there.
I want to commend you on the job and for the kids, and I'm envious because I never could have played your those 5, I just want to congratulate you, and if you whatever you need in the band, talk to these guys right here.
Oh yes, we've talked. Couple times. They are extremely great.
Because your kids deserve it. The kids deserve it.
They deserve it.
Congratulations.
Photografia.
Yeah, Ronnie's got the camera.
Call people.
Hey, Mary.
So if they get that good band, someday we'll see them in Rose Bowl or
It's all about kids like that.
That's what it's all about, Philharmonic. That's what it's all about. Give those to Hart.
Yeah, just give those to Mr. Harkins.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
That kind of thing makes me as a board member, which I've been through some, which we can, but that makes you feel really good.
Yeah.
That makes you feel good.
Every child needs to be involved in something.
See, even music has the power to bring together the Hatfields and McCoys.
I noticed that right off, my friend. He said they were trying to mend things, but, Mr. Harkins said he was having a hard time doing it.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is discussion of possible action on nurses from our school side.
Hello again, I appreciate you letting me take the time for this special meeting here. First, I wanted to, you have on in front of you there a letter, just an update of what we're doing on the school nurse program, but before I go into that, I wanted to ask, for the next school year, for the school climate grant that we're doing, the way we structured it, I'm supposed to bring on another school psychologist, and so I know that we've got a hiring freeze on right now. What I'd like to do, if I could get action on it, would be to just post on the KEP's website. We wouldn't do any hiring until the new superintendent would come in, whenever that would, and the freeze we left, but just to at least get candidates, applicants. That's part of the school climate grant, so it's not anything that would be a part of the.
No, this is a special meeting, we
You
can't
can't.
do that today.
Okay.
No.
You can do it at the next meeting. It's a
Okay.
special meeting.
All right, we'll put it on the next one then. Okay, well then, all right, let me update you then on the school nurses. So, I did meet with Mr. Ward and with Ansel Lewis from Big Sandy Healthcare on the 23rd, which was last week. And prior to that meeting, Mr. Ward did call me and tell me that his board considers the contract over because we did not respond to the letter he sent in December. And so I asked him, what exactly does that mean? And from their perspective, it means that they're out of that contract is over at the end of the year. So,
And that was the letter, refresh my memory, Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair. That was the letter that he said it would cost us $200,000, but nurses, $100,000, but nurses in the school.
but that is, he asked for that, so.
And what did he want us to respond to? Yay or nay or something?
I guess to agree to that before a certain date. I don't remember it was in February, it was about the time that we were gonna meet. And I had contacted him before that, so he knew that, I was working on this, and I guess we kind of assumed that that there would be a little leeway there, but, you know what they say about when you assume things, I guess. Sometimes. So, anyway, so what that leaves to us is that we're out of that contract, essentially, but I asked him, well, if we could, through our negotiations right now, if there's something we can work out, he said that would be fine, we could take that back to the board and try to see if they would be willing to approve it for next year. So, there is still a window there to work. Mr. Lewis also came to the meeting, and and I put it in the letter, he would like to place a nurse at the high school.
See, in his letter that Mr. Ward gave us in December, he said that if we went on our own, we could get 5 nurses instead of 4. That was one of the, do you remember that?
The letter from.
Well, that was a possibility.
Well,
Wait, let me get this
Yeah, so
straight.
if you did go with us, we would probably get 5. And we were thinking,
What letter was this?
he gave us a
From
letter
who?
in December. Do you have a copy of that letter?
I do not have a copy in front of me.
I sent mine right there, and I haven't read it.
I think you read it out in the meeting.
I read the letter in the meeting.
But I think he had said, well, anyway, so we are out of that contract, but he did seem open to the possibility of entering a new know, maybe something different.
$450,000.
What's that?
Probably $450,000.
Well, I think that, well, let me finish what I was gonna say, my thought with Ansel. So what he would like to do, and the reason that he's saying, that, you know, he's doing the high school is because there's not a nurse there now, and he still sees that the school and the health department are negotiating. So I think he's hesitant to put a nurse in the picture down one of the other schools where there is a nurse currently. So all he's asking for in return for that is that they would be provided the exclusive rights to do the dental services for our schools for the next school year. That's something he's going to put into an MOA. I've asked him to put that in there for y'all's consideration for April. So they do it for Johnson and for Floyd counties. They do I guess the cleanings. When he comes in April, he can speak more about what exact services they will provide. But back to what I was saying with Mr. Ward, I think, you know, from what I can gather, talking to him, is that was their plan, has been to kind of phase out of this program, you know, gradually, if you want to call it that, and, you know, from 50,000 to 100,000, not too gradual to me, but anyway, what I would like to do is to go back to them and offer 3 nurses at the rate that we are currently, or to give that option. I mean, he may not accept it, but to do 3 nurses for what we are currently providing. That money's already in the budget. And here's my point with saying that. I did a little research, talked to the KDE about the possibility of even us taking over the nurses and doing Medicaid reimbursement. Their person at Medicaid told me that only the health departments are able to reimburse for things like when a kid gets a Tylenol or Imodium or any of those over-the-counter medications. If we take the nurses on, this is the lady from KDE telling me, we will not be able to reimburse for those services. What they can't reimburse for at the health department is things that are on an IEP. So we can do that for those. So if a child has like a feeding tube, or if they have a medication, they have maybe what is it in?
We only have maybe 1 or 2 students
Right.
that have an IEP with medical services.
I've also been talking to Johnson County because they took over their nurses, trying to figure out what the things they are.
Us still on Medicaid, we won't get anything.
We don't get anything back anyway.
Right.
I mean, with or without with his nurses, we don't get anything back anyway.
Well, we don't. Yeah, he gets it.
He gets it.
So the way that and the reason I would say doing 3 nurses is that the money, if he gets out of the business, that money that we could somebody could reimburse for is just didn't sit left on the table. Nobody's taking it. Talking to Mr. Lewis, because he's a primary care center, he's not the health department. He can't reimburse for things that the registered nurses do. Only the health department can do that, and so that kind of puts us in a position there.
If he gets reimbursement, then he takes money from us, so it's like double.
I mean, we're not getting reimbursed anyway, so why would it matter if this other fellow or we can't get reimbursed for it? We're not getting reimbursed for it one way or the other.
So if he gets reimbursed, why can't you take that off of this fee?
I think he's saying he's already taking that part off.
Yes.
Because it costs them more than $50,000 to provide them.
Right,
and
plus the
Medicaid
reimbursement that they're
offsets
He's not
that.
gonna get an RN.
Mr.
Almost,
Baker,
it's gonna be almost $60,000 to get a good RN, but it's close to.
Mr. Baker, have you looked over the preliminary, the very first budget that we passed? And was that $60,000 still in there, sitting there, as you said? I mean, is it?
Yeah, when I talked to
I can't really remember because it's not in front of me right now, but.
It was just for a year.
It wasn't.
It was originally for the Chinese teachers.
Yeah.
And
So we
they didn't come, so we used that money for the nurses.
Okay.
Is that money line item is what I'm asking right now?
I thought it was just
You know,
for a year.
the preliminary budget that we had to approve
I
last
know.
month.
Well, yeah, and I did talk to our finance people about this. They did say, I mean, that that was, I guess, was in there for the next year, but it may not, I may need to go back and clarify.
Okay.
But it may, yeah, that's a good point though.
Sir, yeah, okay.
It may need, I may need to clarify with the finance.
Well, we only made the contract with the health department for 1 year.
But
So
do
I don't
we-
know why it would have been on the line item for the next year.
I think Tammy budgeted to still have the 50,000.
Because she knew that would be a
Whatever it
likely
was,
expense.
because, right.
But you will go check with them before you go on to negotiate?
Yes, yeah, that's a good, yeah, I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and so 60 for 3 is what I'm, proposing that we would do.
Who decides where those 3 go?
That would be probably something we would have to work out in negotiations. One of the things that, we're looking at is trying to figure out those issues. And with this other nurse from Big Sandy, where would we, and I feel pretty good that we could, if that's a sticking point that they're only at the high school, we need, might need to split time between the 2 schools. I don't know which or what's going to look like, but I'm trying to work out something that we could, I think that would be something we could probably negotiate with Mr. Lewis. The other thing I'm trying to do too is to try to figure out, and there's no guarantee that the health department would go for this as well. So
Right.
if they don't go for it, it leaves us up with the possibility maybe taking our money and going to Mr. Lewis if he's willing to provide nurses. I don't know he would be able to provide 3 nurses or 4 nurses for that money. Like I said, he can't even get reimbursed for what the health department can. So, but we actually did a little figuring on it. And Steve told me was he said 150,000 is what it cost him for the program. We have a school nurse here now, and we sat and figured out that probably salaries and for all 4 is about 120,000. So there's probably 30 in there for other expenditures.
Don't get paid that well.
Huh?
I heard her say earlier, they get paid really well.
Yeah.
School nurses don't.
One other question, sir. When you were talking about the only thing that Mr. Lewis, the CEO, asked is that we let him exclusively handle providing the dental services to our school. Is that at a cost, sir?
No, that's free of charge. I'm sure he's going to get
Thank you very much.
reimbursed.
Thank you very much.
Can he bill for the dental services?
Yes, he can reimburse. Yeah, he can get for that. The nurse is totally not. He won't. The only time that he will be able to recoup money on the nurse is if, and he will. This is another thing he would like to do. If that nurse sees something that she would like they have a nurse practitioner, Kara McCoy here in our
Oh,
county,
she's wonderful.
and they have
Not just because her last name's McCoy.
Dr. Leslie Dawson at their clinic. The only things that they can get reimbursed for is if Kara McCoy comes to the school and sees the child. So that would be at the point that they would be able to recruit money, not with just the RN. But one of the things he did tell me as well is, any kid that his nurse sees would have that backing to be able to talk to a nurse and a doctor directly. So I think that from that aspect, we'll definitely be in a better situation. He's wanting to grow their client base in Martin County. That's his, one of his goals here, because they have a clinic here. They'd like to establish more.
It seems like a win-win situation, and Kara has been she's been a nurse at the high school before.
She was a school, and she was a
Yes.
school nurse
Yes.
previously. So
And she's working with a great doctor, Leslie Dodson, up there that is actually saved my life. So I'm for her.
Okay.
So we were saying what we possibly could do is say you get 4 nurses through from the health department, which one at each elementary, and maybe use one split for middle and high school.
Well, this is something too to think about. Like he said, the middle school for Mr. Ward's perspective is the most. He gets the most money for that because for
For the reimbursements?
The reimbursement rate. He said, and he told me, purely selfishly, if I was gonna keep one, middle school would be the one because I generate the
So it'd
most
be
revenue.
advantageous for him to,
Yeah, he
place
disclosed
one
that
there.
to me. But, so, I mean, how we would divvy it up, I'm not sure, you know, I mean, we're thinking about that, but a lot of it depends on if the health department would even go for what we would put forward.
Exactly.
And then,
This is all hypothetical.
yeah, it is hypothetical.
I don't think the nurses like to do the split.
Mhm.
I don't think they're big on it. So, I mean, that's why I asked who would
Well, that
decide who went where.
That particular split would be hard anyway, because that's on two
It's a
sides
long,
of the county.
yeah.
So Brenda, what's your, Brenda's one of our school nurses, and I know she's, does a great job, and I appreciate what you
I did the
do.
split for 3 different years between Warfield Elementary and Inez Elementary. The problems you run into is like one day you're at Warfield and when you come to Inez, you've got the Warfield parents calling to see what you did for that child the previous
Exactly.
day. And you don't have access to a chart. You can't pull it. You can't talk to them about it. So you're like, if you will call me back tomorrow when I'm at Warfield, I can tell you. Because when you see 30 and 40 kids, you can't remember if you had them dropped off or if you gave them no food or what you did for them. But, and splitting, Inez will probably be the one that wouldn't get a nurse. If you had to split a school, it would probably be Inez because we don't have the reimbursements. For a while, I did high school and Inez. But we don't get anything from the high school at all.
Do you get mileage when you're traveling back and forth like that?
No,
Okay.
no. And then this year I did Inez Elementary and the middle school when the middle school nurse quit. So I've been pulled back and forth. But
Bless
it's
your
not
heart.
fair, it's not fair to the students.
No. Or you, or the employee.
Right.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
it. So what do you think that we could do to make this thing work and make it the best we possibly can? I mean, we're talking our most valuable, our kids, I mean.
I would say if he decides that he would do that, the 3 nurses, this is just me speaking, I would think he would put one at the middle school, the one at Warfield Elementary, and then at Eaton. And then if Big Sandy would do one, they would probably split it between the high school and Inez because you can get back and forth quickly.
Right.
And that's doable. I went back and forth. You're close enough that you can get there if you need to. But I would think that would be what, if Steve would go for it and do that.
I think what we got to decide on tonight, I mean, this has been valuable input, especially since we have a particular person here that is in the job. But I think what we have to decide on tonight, Madam Chair, is to whether or not to go ahead with the negotiations with Mr. Baker and the health department.
One more question before.
We really need the nurses, so.
It's like Paul brought up before with Big Sandy, we're like, maybe in the future, of course, our architects are sitting here, partnering with like providing a clinic. So is there still interest in that?
Well, that's something I've asked Mr. Ansel to get some plans together, what a school health clinic would need to look like. One of their clinics is adjacent to the Shelby Valley High School there. So we're hoping that something, you know, that if we can get some dimensions to the architects, that they could leave space for a future time, we could work in a clinic. So there would be an actual doctor staffed at the clinic, nurses, and even, you know, so even staff and students would be sitting at that. It would be on the high school campus.
That is a dream.
Yeah, I would like for you to continue to push for that.
Well, and you know, and Ansel said that he would be happy to. There are grants out there periodically that come out for school health clinics. So I mean, as far as operating them, as far as the construction of one, you know, I'm sure we could probably, once we have that as a plan, we can move forward looking for, you know, getting
So
those
our
things.
architects can look at adding a couple.
Yeah, just leaving some space for the clinic, but I'm trying to get some dimensions to Mike.
Like the schematic, why would that be a problem?
Yeah, we'll leave that, but I'll try to get some dimensions of what they would need for Mike, and then so he can send that on to you guys.
And I appreciate, Brenda, what you do. And I don't know if a lot of people, which we know, me and myself, how instrumental you were on this school site, your family. So we appreciate that too.
Yes, we do.
They bring money all the time.
And I saw your daughter in the band, so.
Yes, awesome. So the students that have this requirement in the IEP, does that make the school liable to have a nurse, or are those?
It doesn't have to be a nurse, it could be a health aide, someone trained, like, we have some of our assistants are trained to administer like the diastat and things like that if somebody has a seizure. Because they have to keep the medication with them at all times. Most of those students have a one-to-one assistant. Well, they all do, the two that we're
That's someone
talking about.
said.
Yeah, somebody's with them and they've been trained.
So, what's the extent of the nurse's responsibilities? I mean, what cannot they do? What can they do and what can't they do?
My biggest complaint with, like, the health department being under them, like he said, we can give, like, over-the-counter medicines.
And that's it, right?
Yes, and if we had Big Sandy, I'd pick up a phone and call Kara and say, this child has strep, can you call in an antibiotic? They would get an antibiotic.
Yeah.
Because you can call a parent, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go to the doctor.
Right,
And you
right.
get kids sent every day to school that's sick and that needs antibiotics or that needs ear drops and you can't give that. That's
From the health department is not allowed to give
We
those.
cannot give something that's prescribed unless they've already seen their family physician and they sign a consent and they bring the medicine to school. But if the child needs that medicine, you can actually get an order for it at school if you were working directly under a physician or a nurse practitioner. Right.
And as a principal that saw this program in students, he was my nurse at INS. The data analysis of how many kids we were able to keep in the school would be amazing to me. And the number of kids that working with a health care professional in your school, that we came up with solutions that solve student problems in our own school is beyond any dollar amount. But what I'd like to know, and just a question from the general public now is, okay, the health department initiated that. It was a great service. It was great. I mean, okay, what kind of money or skin do they have still in this involvement with the board? What do we have to do at a minimal cost to be able to stay in a relationship? But I agree with the thing about prescription. Attendance has to be, I noticed our attendance the other day is about 1% high from this year to last year, so that's improved. But that alone, and not having to rely on the principal or a secretary or a glorified PE teacher that's taking that on as their extra task. Yeah, that's who we called on, a PE teacher that had a health class.
Right.
To make a decision on where a kid goes home or stays was just beyond,
And that's one
cost
of
factor.
the biggest things, because a mom, they will wait on me in the morning before they ever take them to the doctor.
We had kids that would
Check
get,
them before I go.
we had kids that would get hurt on the weekend that didn't go anywhere for health care. They came to school because we had a nurse.
It's just
And I
like.
kind of like, what is this, but they were able to, diagnose or get help for kids.
Yeah.
Beyond any cost, and that's why I'm asking, what is the Martin County Health Board? What's theirs? That's an agency that looks out for the welfare of the county and the kids of this county. Why are they pulling out of this, or is the arrangement with Big Sandy better? Anything you can do to improve your arrangement for your kids, that's what has to happen.
And Mr. Ansel had also said that he would extend that same relationship for those nurses as well if they wanted, or whoever, if they want next year to call Carol, call Parker to get that service, they would come out and see. They have that same backing. I mean, from that perspective, it's a very attractive offer. And so what I really need to do is know if I'm allowed to go forward with that.
So you need permission from us to negotiate
Yeah,
with
with
the
that
health
offer.
department.
For the health department.
But I don't think you can post, right?
No, I have to
Ron
wait.
has said, no.
That thing I'll have to
No,
wait
you
till,
can't.
I can do it next.
So make sure you keep pushing on this clinic. Lincoln County, West Virginia has an on-campus clinic with a high school, so Roland's ready to put 3 more rooms on that.
Well, we won't ask for any money right now, we'll just ask to save space in it, so.
Madam Chair,
I need a motion to.
I will make a motion for Mr. Paul Baker to continue to negotiate with has ongoing negotiations with the Martin County Health Department. I think he's the man to do it, and I really love this idea of granting the CEO complete dental care. That's an extra package, yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I would like also to share with you, Madam Chair, that Mr. Harris and I went to a training session on the health and safety of students in the schools. And I got there rather early and started talking to the presenters. And one was from a health department in Western Kentucky. The other was a nurse. She was a dietitian, but she dealt with the health and health programs of kids in schools. I had their contact information, and I told them that I would be contacting them with any kind of questions and things. And that's just another resource. So we pick up some good stuff at those KBSA things. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, our next item is discussion of possible action on offers of assistance from School Facilities Construction Commission in amount of $16,220. There's free money. Do we want it?
Well, here, and I like, of course, I don't know. Yeah, I like, but the parking lot up there at the high school, I don't, which, hopefully by next year, when the school comes and sees, we can remedy that ice problem up there before we get a kid injured. So I don't know what you can designate this money, but, you know, let's.
Do you make a motion that we take it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion we take it.
Yeah, we'll take it, we'll take
Okay.
it. And hopefully they'll have more later.
Do I have a second?
I think they will.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
I'm gonna look a gift horse in the mouth.
We're gonna get
So they
money
gave us
for
what,
taking
last
it.
month, 6,000?
12,000, wasn't it?
12,000.
And 16
So,
this.
let's keep on pushing that.
I will
Yeah.
sign up on that.
Okay, our next item is discussion of possible action on getting a bidding process started on the Eden Roof project.
Yeah, so we actually, the last week, we approved the construction documents. We sent those to KDE. We received approval from them last week on those. So we actually are ready to go out to bid here. We sent an advertisement to the paper, to your local paper, and that should run on Wednesday. And we are, yeah, we're on track here. We're going to be putting this out to bid. We've got a pre-bid penciled on our calendars right now for March 9th, where we'll be at the school meeting with contractors and looking over the roof with them. And then the bid opening is scheduled for March 23rd. Okay, so this thing's going to be bid out to bid for 3 weeks. All right, and yeah, and I don't think there's any action items required tonight, but I mean, if you have any questions or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer.
What time is it open?
Bid opening will be at 2
Location?
here,
March 9th?
March 23rd.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that, Robin, very much. And of course, we're looking at to start the job, which I know, I think one, random had like March 28th, but our spring break is when? April 4th? April 4th, that's spring break.
Right.
So maybe, if we go this route with Mandel, maybe we could look at that particular week to get it done.
If we have a spring break.
Well, the
Spring
spring
break
break during the 3 weeks.
No, the bid opening will be March 23rd. Now, there are some extra steps in there as far as coming back to you all and then.
It'd be nice if we could get it while the kids are out of school.
Actually, I was thinking maybe over the summer while the kids are out might be a good time.
Yeah, but it's not gonna be that much rain.
There's a lot of rain, April, May.
April shower.
April showers, well, maybe.
Because I thought I saw where it was supposed to begin March 28th, the actual, like Coach, or what,
Yeah,
Coach Harles just said.
Was the actual start on the job, wasn't it?
That's what I remember.
That's what-
That may have been the previous schedule.
No, that was the last.
Or no, that was, well, I'm not sure. Is that?
Check that.
Yep.
It's March 28th, I'm pretty sure.
So we already have, the newspaper already has the,
They already have the ad. Yeah, we sent that to them on Friday. So they're gonna run that on Wednesday.
Gonna run, what, 2 weeks?
Just once,
Just one, okay.
but it has to be within the time period before the bid received.
It'd be nice if we could do it during spring break. I don't want to get a kid drained.
Well, let me be careful, it won't be a process that's gonna be done in only 1 week.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it should be done in a week.
It can't be done in a week, so the question would be, I don't want the contractor to start and then have to stop because you've got testing going on, and a lot of times we actually are told not to be doing that kind of noisy work above on the roof when they're trying to test kids.
Right, you shouldn't be. It's probably be an extra month away, it's not gonna be there.
So
Well, the big thing would be materials too, when they approve the bids and then you've got to go to KDE and get contracts signed, so I don't think we would have approval from KDE to authorize contracts in time for spring break.
So, let's get it done as soon as possible.
Yep, sure.
And don't forget that gym floor down there too.
Okay, moving on. Our next item is discussion and possible action on updated designs for the new Martin County High School.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate the work session and what we're able to share. In terms of an action item, we're here for continued discussion, and a possible action would be for us the idea of a approval of a revised schematic design. So we're kind of looking backwards a little bit over the changes in the floor plan that you see, still showing the gymnasium, the auditorium, then we have the future ATC we're talking about not actually doing documents for, but for the gym becoming a part of the base bid for the gym proper. I would tell you that we're still looking at this back section as an alternate for the additional storage and locker rooms, but trying to move just the actual gym floor bleachers and the 4 locker rooms that we already have under the bleachers.
Which, that looks good on the end there, because we could possibly, if we build a football field out from that somewhere,
Right.
so they could also use these
Right.
locker rooms. Yeah,
Or for
that
any
would work
sport,
out
I mean,
great.
one thing, I mean, for any sport, whether you're talking about cross-country or having some other kind of, activity, out on site,
Because I've seen some, I think not County Central, I don't know where it may be in there, but they kind of like locker rooms that's used
Kind of like that.
for, the basketball or whatever, plus used for, which I've always said about our football, we got a nice turf field, everybody knows it, but our lockers, Larry knows it, our facilities for us dressing and accommodating the visiting teams is terrible. Just plain, so this will work out great if we can get this.
Okay, so again, this is the idea of a revised schematic design. We will resubmit this to the Department of Education. Our goal will be to be back with you in April, the April 11th meeting for new design development drawings. So we'll be recreating what we had here with all new floor plans, all new, design over the structure, the changes in elevations, sections. We would like to ask or entertain the idea, because I know your regular agenda gets full, about maybe a possible special call meeting / work session to talk about even the elevations as we move forward. So whatever we can get done as fast as we can, along with that would be the early site package. So I would tell you that, with your approval tonight of this revised schematic, it will be coming back to you no later, let's say, than the April 11th meeting for design development, the early site package approval. That April 11th works well with KBE, the Kentucky Board of Education, giving their approval that Greg Dunbar would probably want to make sure that before you go out to bid, or especially before you were to execute a contract, that you, again, backed up the property being purchased. But I'd like to think that we could do it with the property being approved, or even if it's close to approval, we would be allowed to go out to bid on that. With KBE approval, he would probably pull the trigger, let us go out to bid. It probably would be some contingency to, obviously you can't sign a contract or sell bonds until the property is actually acquired. Okay, so.
Okay, make that motion.
Okay.
Let's stay on that timeline though. let's get it done.
Right.
Okay, Gary's made a motion.
No,
I
I make
need a
the
second.
motion to,
I'll
what they didn't define. Okay, the.
Motion to approve the revised schematic design for the new,
Okay, one thing before we do this. Have you got a picture of the exterior house?
not yet.
Okay, so we're working, it's gonna be.
We're working on that. That's what we're talking about as far as having additional meetings.
It's gonna be eye-catching, appealing.
Yes.
Well, there's already a motion and a second. so-
Okay, yeah.
We'll bring something back.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Now, let me get this straight. I'm approving a schematic design tonight if I vote yes, a revised one, without a theater.
The schematic design has a theater auditorium, but I will come back with design development that will show that as a alternate,
Yeah.
but based on the budget. Now, if the budget changes, if money becomes available or things change, then.
Well, between,
Okay, go ahead.
thank you, Gary. Between, you know my desires and the desires of the people that I represent, the
Yes, sir.
theater community. This man knows my desires and Ray Jones here knows my desires and Mr. Harris, the Representative Harris knows my desires. And as I have two witnesses here that the Commissioner of Education knows my desires for theater, doesn't he, ladies? Made sure of that when we did a photo op with him. It took a little bit longer to get me in line because I had to get him in line. And
And the SFCC knows your desires.
yes. So, anyway, you know, I didn't vote for it the first time because,
I understand.
and you all understood that, and that was it. But because I believe that all you people are going to be working, the named, and Joe Nance, I couldn't leave him out, and I know our new superintendent is pro auditorium, and I'm going to vote yes.
Well, thank you. It'll definitely be in the project, and the budget will be what determines what you, the board, can do or can select.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about the auditorium, the cost being around 700,000, around in that?
No, it was like 1.6, 1.8 million.
I think you all came back with a 1.9, and I thought it was going to be a 1.5 or something, but, you know.
And that also includes the ATC,
No.
right? The same
No.
condition for the ATC,
No.
right?
No, the
No, not the
ATC
1.9 or the 1 point whatever. I'm talking about the possibility of the budget.
I will tell you that, like I said before in the work session, that the ATC, we're not moving forward with on actual plans to be bid. But it's there as the schematic or as the, what we call the level. It means we can pick it right up and do like what we did in Clark County as soon as funds are available. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
so-
want to spend, you know.
Right, I understand that. So if we hear within the next 2 weeks, we're going to get the funds.
Oh,
for
right,
that.
okay, exactly.
As soon as you know the funds available,
Okay.
we can
Right.
How many seats in all?
reinitiate that.
Because I feel like somebody may
How
be
many
able to
seats?
talk about the ATC.
I think
They
we all
say,
are.
they say for
And that's why this is,
I'd
let
like
me
to
just
see
share, that's why this is colored up like it is. The ATC, we're not moving forward with, but it is on
My God,
the master
are you
plan.
serious?
But both the auditorium, we're looking at, and seeing
650.
both a shell and then the finishes.
Belfry don't have
Okay.
400 seats.
And then
I bet
the
Belfry
gym
got auditorium.
pieces, the
I
extra
bet
part
they
of the
probably
gym
got 400
is
seats.
all
They probably got
one alternate being completed.
Or more.
Because the way those walls are and all the finishes, it's not going to be usable or, you know, wouldn't make much sense to me to
I mean, I'll
have
get John
a
Prine.
shell for that.
Our biggest school is 18, I think we're going to have
How
half
big's the state?
ATC.
And
How big is
there are
the state?
kids.
There are kids, they're part of our school system, they need to be.
I don't know, I was kind of worried when they said it's only 2 foot higher than
back and
the
forth.
Right.
floor, but.
But we do have.
2.5.
Yeah.
I don't know, I asked that one time.
Unanimous,
I don't know if you
okay?
mentioned
Thank you.
now.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
The next item was the discussion and
Gonna be able to fly stuff?
possible.
Flashback?
Yeah.
You're taking away some of my disappointment.
I'd love to see it. Then way we could have visiting
Okay,
shows.
okay, Ms. Price. The next item.
I asked that question.
Okay. Discussion and possible action on contract with Quicksand Farms for maintenance of the softball and baseball fields. And I think we've been asked to table this time.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
I'll make a motion to table it.
Before we
Yeah.
table it, can I say one?
okay.
Mickey, we've talked about as far as, what this includes here, which I don't know if Mike may have checked, if somebody would care to check on how much our extension office can do for us, and, if we can help us out on this expense, or take, we want to have,
On the soil testing?
soil testing, and spring fertilization, and some of that, so just see what,
And Mr. Cassidy, I would like you to check on what it costs to send one of our own to be certified to distribute these chemicals. I mean, I feel like we need to,
Do an in-house thing.
yes, in-house if we can, train our own instead of continually bringing someone else in.
We shouldn't be fertilizer.
Shouldn't be difficult.
Okay, so you
This,
have a
this is
motion.
for field maintenance, marking, clearing the softball and baseball field.
No, that was separate. That was separate.
That,
was-
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was separate than this chemical stuff.
Care of the maintenance.
Yes, with the in-building machine and
Okay.
marking the field every time there's a game, both fields, not just one.
Right.
That was what I wanted on there. I don't know how it got switched off to this quicksand stuff.
Using the machine, grading and so forth.
Yeah,
Mr. Superintendent, I think that, I know, well, I may be crazy, but,
Maybe.
I could have sworn, yeah, I know. I could have sworn that we had brought this up once
We did.
before.
we did.
And Roger and somebody else down there was agreeing, and I agreed with them, that we were going to look into, and to my
It was
knowledge,
me. It was me,
oh, yes,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm so glad that,
No, we had a lot of crabgrass
I'm
and
not
stuff go
doing
on,
this.
and they had never really reported anybody.
I
But I'd
thought
like to get that on the agenda as soon as possible, because I think their first game is March the 11th.
yeah, and I want an
To be
A
able to have
number
someone
one
go
field.
in there, coaches, and that would always,
And
mark the field and take care of the field.
basketball's already
Get it
messed
before,
up with the
and they
small
did a great
floor.
job.
Yeah.
Well, I was under the impression somebody was already doing this, or not doing it, we were being billed for it, and that they hadn't done it. Is that correct?
There was no
Yes.
proof of it.
Yeah, there's no proof that it was being done, so, that was.
So can we get somebody trained or whatever that fast?
You will
to get
check
done?
on it to certify?
We'll check on that. My son actually worked for a big outfit out of Louisville, had 50 trucks going out every day. And his license to just apply the stuff was easier to get in Indiana than it was Kentucky.
Okay.
He had to work so long to get that, doing it daily before he could even go take a license. It still was a 4-day training. I asked him a couple questions on it. It's a very involved thing because you're dealing with chemicals and you're dealing with public, so, the pros and cons of that are, we can evaluate that, know something by next Monday or next board meeting.
Okay.
And I know what the discussion was with Dr. Laney was, they're right now at time to put something on there, and that's why the Quicksand Farms have done it previously. And we've discontinued that service.
Right. Well,
And the only person can enter a contract is the board. I don't think
So we
Dr.
voted.
Laney can even enter a
I
contract.
would like to get on the agenda for next time to hire, not anything to do with this, but someone to take care of our field, mark the field, get it ready for our ball games, both fields, baseball and softball. Like we did before.
Well, I tell you, that baseball coach is a go-getter. He does a lot of stuff himself, and he said he wanted to do things himself because he didn't trust it. I like that. He was here one night. That's a go.
So I'll make a motion to table.
Okay,
Quicksand
got a
Farms.
motion to table it. Do I need to have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Were you here?
Next item is going to be discussion and possible action on new superintendent's contract.
With permission of the board, if I can, if you all excuse me.
Are we going to close session?
Or-
No, we don't have to go into closed session. It's
Is
not,
that okay?
there's
So you
no
guys
closed
go back down
session
Park.
on here, I'm sorry.
You want us to bring a motion?
He's not, he's
I was gonna tell you.
Oh, I'm all
break
talking
up
about,
well.
I'm sorry, that's fine.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
That's
Is that okay? Okay. Okay.
But I like that on the golfing's new school.
Yes.
Yeah, take a look at it.
Is it paint?
No, I like it.
Paint?
Is it red?
What was that we talked about? Tudor, Brighton Tudor or something? I don't know.
That like grayish one?
It's brown, it's brown.
Little brown.
I looked at the golf.
I need a motion to accept.
What you said they use most of residential.
I need a motion to
I
accept
think
the
we found
superintendent's
color
contract.
that.
I need a second.
What's the motion for?
Motion to accept the new superintendent's contract.
Is it identical to what the attorney,
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Mike
Mike,
said you guys have
yes,
the
yes.
contract in your hands for quite a while. All you gotta do is approve it tonight.
Approve it. Okay, I have a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Say,
Have a second. All in favor, say
What did you say?
Yes, we have a new superintendent.
I was hoping it wasn't April Fool's, Joe.
That's what Mickey keeps saying, it's April Fool's Day.
Now I need a motion to adjourn.
Started that contract.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to
Okay,
congratulate Larry on his new $25,000 a year contract.
I'll second it. All in favor?
And I
say aye.
Back up.
Always
Aye.
listening.
Leave here, it never comes back.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, motion.
Larry also got all the, all